Hi everyone, welcome to Scouting for Growth. Today we'll be welcoming James Marshall on the podcast. James is a managing director from Spinning Fox, a product-led design agency focused on helping large and small businesses solve problems more creatively. James has 11 years of delivery experience and a proven ability to manage super large global accounts, including companies such as HSBC, Nike, Unilever, PepsiCo, Adidas, Dyson, Samsung, to name but the few. He has a huge passion from creating tech and operational solution to solve business and customer problems and drive opportunities for growth much faster than traditional approaches. On the podcast, we'll be discussing a variety of things. But first, James' journey into the design thinking and user experience world. Then we will cover why operational efficiency is so hot right now. We will also cover the power of taking an outside-in perspective in everything we do. And lastly, good problem solving requires for us all to take calculated risk. So let's welcome James, and please do not forget to rate, subscribe, and comment below. And also reach out to me if you want to suggest new guests that I could bring onto the podcast. So let's get started. So hi, James. Welcome to Scouting for Growth.
Hi, Sabine.
Thank you so much for being with me today. So, we always start the discussion with, getting a little bit information about you and who you are. So I'd love to know about James, where you're coming from, what is your journey and what makes you really different today compared to maybe others doing exactly what you do in the marketplace.
Great. Yeah, I'd be happy to tell you. I grew up in a small town in Gloucestershire in the UK, a town called Lechlade. Quite early on, when I was 10, 11, I guess my parents divorced. I lived with my mum. I remember we didn't have sort of much money, growing up. But my mum was super, super hard working. She held kind of multiple jobs at a time. And kind of the great thing about that was that it helped me to quickly learn that if I wanted things in life, then really I needed to work for it. I remember actually, I think when I was early teens, me and a friend of mine, we actually started up a car cleaning business at the weekends where we go around our neighbors and clean some of their cars. We were actually quite successful, making good money for, at that age. And I even remember we got to the point where we took on, I think it was maybe 2 other friends, so that they could wash additional cars, and then we took a cut of what they earned as well. So from quite early on, I was always kind of thinking about business and how I could, improve things and make more money, I guess. I would say I wasn't particularly strong at school. It just didn't really suit me that well, but things really clicked. I went to university and studied communication design or graphic design. So I really found my passion there. I graduated out of there with a first class honours and worked in my early career as a designer. But even then, I knew that I had bigger ambitions. I knew that one day I wanted to own my own company, but spotted quite quickly that I needed to develop more business skills. I was too young, too raw. So moved to London to work in some amazing digital agencies there. So worked with Havas, RGA, Analog Folk, incredible global agencies. And actually took a funny sideways step. You won't hear this from many designers, but ended up going into program leadership. So running large programs or large accounts of work. Really enjoyed that interaction with clients, understanding their businesses. Worked with some incredible clients such as Nike, Dyson, Samsung, HSBC. And that's where I really found that I had a passion for delivering digital product solutions, so using design and technology ultimately to solve problems. I was then, when in London, I was introduced to James Lyne and Tim Aiken, who shared my passion and also, wanted to create their own digital product agency. So we founded Spinning Fox, and yeah, that's where it all started, really.
So let's go into Spinning Fox.
Yeah.
And I was listening to some of your parkour, and I guess design is in the DNA. And you realize very young that you really like design. And you mentioned that you started with digital design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Working for digital agencies. So we'd love to hear about who is Spinning Fox, and also what the difference between digital design and product design is, because I think I read on your website that the focus is product, right?
Yeah.
Tell us.
It is. Yeah. So I guess the reason we created Spinning Fox is between the three of us, we'd witnessed many product teams try to deliver digital products and platforms, and we'd seen them fail. It's quite common that the teams fail, the product fail, but through those failures, that's where you get learnings, right? So we wanted to build a company to build products and ultimately take those learnings that we had, and solve problems and create solutions for clients. So that's where we created Spinning Fox. We, underlying all of that, we just had that love for design and tech and using it to solve problems. We knew that running a business isn't going to be easy, right? But none of us are afraid of hard work. And I think the skills that we have collectively really complement each other. So you've got James, James Lyne has experience of running numerous successful businesses globally. He has great business acumen, and he's also just a massive, he won't hate me for saying this, but he's also a massive just tech geek, more specifically in cybersecurity. And then you've got Tim, who has a background in building many successful digital products, comes with incredible creative skill, huge, never seen attention to detail like it, but very calm and considered. And in my eyes, it was the perfect combination as a team. They're also firm believers in finding entrepreneurial folk as well. They run numerous businesses, so they don't always have loads and loads of time, but they like meeting other entrepreneurial folk that they can put trust in and give them the freedom to drive a business forward, which is ultimately, I'm the main driver behind Spinning Fox, and then they're there to provide input and guidance, and a lot of that cascades down into the business, but ultimately, that dynamic has worked really well from day one.
So it's good to hear that you actually find the balance between the design, the technology, and the operation. I gathered listening to your allies and how you actually shape the business.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what makes you super special when you think about your clients?
I guess, yeah. So why Spinning Fox, I guess. So I like to describe us as a collective of technologists, innovators, strategists, designers, but we all have one shared passion, and that is solving problems. So that's how we deliver value for our clients. We aim to establish a great partnership and I'll probably talk about a little bit about more about this in a bit, but establishing a great partnership from the outset, and we really focus with our clients in them and their teams in making them more customer centered. So we have a process where everything we do puts the customer right at the heart of everything, and we come back and we refer to that throughout that process as well to validate and make sure that we're on the right track. We also tried to take quite a platform agnostic approach to things as well. So we look at the sector, the customer, the business, and then we use that to work out the right solution. We try not to come into things with an idea in mind of, oh, it'd be great if we could do something with this or that latest technology, that might get us great PR or awards. It's actually leaving the decisions about the solution and the tech that we're going to use later, but really understanding that problem to begin with. And then also understanding that we need to scale products and services quickly. So we work with everybody from startups all the way through to large enterprises. But the approach doesn't massively change. We aim to get a solution out there in the wild as quickly as possible, test it, learn, iterate. We believe that's you get far more valid input and feedback that way, rather than getting hell-bent on always trying to deliver the best solution from day one. I think that's especially important at the moment with the financial instability in the market. I think more and more we're seeing the need from clients to be able to kind of get something out there far quicker. And then, just the breadth, I guess, of sectors that we've worked with, everything from e-learning, cybersecurity, gaming. I think even more recently, we've worked on delivery of a landscape design app, which was exciting and very different from anything that we've done. But yeah, my one point is that the principle remains the same. We're using that user-centric approach that we can apply across a range of different sectors, really.
Can you tell us, therefore, a little bit more about that user-centered approach? To really understand what that means. And what I would also like to see is if you could actually share two examples, because you said you're working with young businesses and startups, cyber being a major topic and probably one of the most complex one maybe to deal with. And then you also are dealing with large enterprises, big companies, where you're actually helping them do that iterative thinking, user-based design approach. Tell us.
Definitely. I mean, at a high level, the approach that we kind of try to take is first stage is around discovery. So we're immersing ourselves in the world of our client, and we can do that. We can fast track that process through doing some mini workshops, meeting with stakeholders, meeting the user ideally, to ultimately understand that opportunity as quickly as possible. Then defining things, so identifying the user, what their needs are, their pain points, and start to work out the solution off the back of that. We probably then move into rapid prototyping and trying to get things, getting into a cycle of testing and iterating and getting it in front of the user to get that feedback as quickly as possible before moving into implementation. So we have full end-to-end delivery capabilities. We have a team of engineers as well. And we have a QA baked in, quality assurance baked into our process as well. Through then getting to a stage of actually testing and deploying and getting back into a cycle of testing and iterating and improving. So if I had to apply that to a couple of examples, I would say in the startup world, we've recently worked with a client in the gaming space. They wanted to, can't say too much about this, but they ultimately create a platform to allow gamers to compete against each other. So be able to securely raise a wager against each other to sort of say, okay, well, we're going to play this game. I think I can beat you, and Sabine, I'm going to raise you, $10 to say, that I can beat you in this. And it's doing it in a secure environment, a kind of almost escrow type environment. And then even if there's a debate over who's winning or not winning, then we came up with a solution of how that can be done through actually not relying on large customer support teams. So that was the delivery of a proof of concept app. There was some staged integration, some fully baked out integration. The main reason was getting it enough and proven out to a level where they had some users on there that they could then go and unlock further investment to ultimately get to what the overall goal was. So it was very important with them that we went through some quick cycles of ultimately it was starting with an idea of that one. It was right in the beginning, so getting to a prototype solution. Then if we took a large enterprise client, one of our biggest clients that we work with, they work in the cybersecurity training space. And the pandemic was a great trigger for us to work with them in transforming their business. So a majority, even though they're a global business, a lot of the training that they provide and events that they provide were all face-to-face. So, I think 80% was face-to-face and only 20% was online. So we had to literally flip that on its head. And now it is the other way around, and 80% is online training. So they always had an experience there, but it was working with them to how can we enhance that, improve that end-to-end customer experience to make it super solid. And that went everywhere from the early stages of somebody exploring what courses were available on their website through to actually signing up, through to then taking the training, being able to do your training on the go through a mobile application. Say you're going on a flight and you want to be able to download the content for offline use, or going on a car journey and you want to be able to do your training through audio only, through to then the actual exam platform. So literally we're talking full spectrum, end to end, business digital transformation with that business. So yeah, a real mix.
Yeah, no, I can see a scale of different problems you are solving for. But do you always solve for, so we talked about user-centered design, you always solve for those problems with technology. And as you know, when we look at different ways of building business models, we think about the market, the tech-led and the product-led businesses. Do you always start with product, going into technology, and then by using the user-centered mechanism, allow this to be matched to the market?
Yeah, I guess so. Like I was saying, we're kind of agnostic in the approach. So understanding the problem to begin with, designing the solution and working out what medium or tech is best to best. So we have even had instances in the past where we've actually gone, you know what, the best solution for this is actually something that we can't do, but we can work with you as a partner and maybe find another third party that we can work with and help you to support in the delivery of that. And we're not afraid to say that. We won't always engineer things to force it into this is what we want to do and where we've got great expertise and prior knowledge. It's actually, and that's why I keep going back to partnership, right? Is developing that to a point of being honest and transparent with a client, I think.
And that's superb. And the reason why for asking the previous question is also because, as you know, there are so many agencies out there, and so what do you think is not working in the world of digital agencies today, and that you are trying to solve for the young and the bigger businesses as well?
Yeah. So I think for us, I think the key thing is knowing that there's no time to stand still, as well as a digital product agency. So if you stand still as an agency, then you're going to be a dinosaur in 5 minutes. So you have to be very aware of what's happening out there in the future, and being aware of that and being invested in it. I think being prepared to adapt your business model quite quickly, I think is a key thing. We're of the size where we can change quite quickly. We also try to look at things very quickly from a client perspective as well. So it's very easy to go in with a preconceived conception of, okay, how we tackle a particular problem. But I think it's going in and being a little bit naive in the beginning and being open to a client perspective as well, and learning about them and learning about their challenges and problem, and almost becoming their business in yourself. And that's how you come up with the best solution. I think that we don't get too hung up on awards and inflating our ego and kind of going in and kind of, rather than thinking about, okay, what's going to get the best PR and or awards out the back of this, is really thinking, okay, what's the best solution that we can come up with? And yeah, great, if we win awards and get PR off the back of that, then that's an added bonus. But ultimately, I guess it's about building that partnership. I think, and continually demonstrating value as well is super important to us. Is you might deliver a great project and deliver a great solution, but okay, you're moving on to the next thing. We've got to continually innovate and demonstrate value. Otherwise, clients will just do it themselves, right?
Yes, and I mean, I think it's always about finding the right solution to the business problem at the end of the day. And so looking at, business model innovation, what we are seeing right now in the marketplace is that, organizations need to prioritize. They need to prioritize the investment and the choices they make, even in the design of, their product and services. So What do you think is going to truly generate profit in the future when you look at the current market situation? And you mentioned earlier, we are moving into very uncertain waters.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, a very relevant question right at the moment. So we're definitely seeing, we're working with clients a lot at the moment where they're trying to optimize their user experience to try and increase conversion and revenue. So if I give you an example there, one particular client that we're working with, we've made small increments and improvements to actually in their sales process of bundling or add-ons through that sales process, where actually we've been able to improve that bundling and add-on experience from, I think it's gone from 73% to 90% add rate. Now blow that out across thousands of customers. That's a vast improvement to revenues and profits for the business. We're also finding that clients are becoming more and more focused on where they're investing as well. Maybe they have a portfolio of products or tools, but they're focusing on a smaller number of areas and focusing on those products or solutions that deliver the most revenue for the business as well. And then I guess another area would be around automating of processes. So we're, as you know, there's still strangely a big skills gap and shortage in a lot of sectors out there in industry at the moment. So we've tackled some projects which have involved automating internal processes for a business which maybe relied on several individuals before, and in a particular example of a project as well, in addition to that, it also meant that through having all those people involved, it was susceptible to human error as well. So we've automated processes for them, which for that particular business has meant that those people that were involved, there's several people that were involved before, can then be reprioritized and focus on other areas of the business which maybe drive more revenue than where they were working. So I guess if I had to drill it down, it would be that optimization, small incremental changes to drive revenue and conversion, and then also looking at how we can automate some of those internal processes in a business as well.
Interesting. I was recently talking to Liz Lamley, the deputy editor of the bankers company from the FT, and she was highlighting actually during our conversation that banks right now, it's all about efficiency savings and looking at operational areas that can be improved. And it's not, as it used to be before about, growing that top line. It's all about profit. And I think what you just said echoed just that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're seeing it. Most clients that we're working with, most briefs and opportunities are in that kind of space of making small incremental changes. And it genuinely excites us because actually they don't need to be massive projects. They can actually be, you can make these small changes and adjustments and they can have drastic changes to a business. And that's where we get our kick as well, I guess, out of those kind of things.
That's super cool. And I love the fact that you can do that for big businesses and small businesses too. So I think it's super important. Now, my next question is, okay, you are building those products and enabling businesses to actually become more efficient, take, improve processes, take, task out of, manual task out of the processes and make people probably better and give them much more fulfilling roles by, enabling them to move to much more revenue generating opportunities as individual. And then you let the technology do the job, right? When it can do the job. So what do you think is going to be the impact of the world we are going into from a digitization viewpoint when we look at the current talent gap? And, the fight for talent, you probably saw last year, I just could not believe it, how difficult it was to recruit talent. Now, at the same time, a lot of the fintechs and the tech ventures have laid off a lot of people. In the UK, we believe that we need to relevel the salaries because some of them are unacceptable and cannot be borne by many businesses. So what do we need to do, James?
Yeah, a good question. I mean, we're definitely, I mean, for me, I'm talking to a lot of clients where they maybe have their own internal teams. Maybe they've reduced in size and they need additional support. We I don't think that sometimes I speak to clients and they think that it's one or the other. They either work with a third party to address that skills gap that they might have, or they use their internal team. I think more and more we're actually turning up and working in a way that we can actually complement and work alongside teams. Okay, so maybe your internal team might have reduced by 30%. Okay, and the teams aren't operating as efficiently. So I think there's a few exciting things that we can do when we get that kind of opportunity with a client. So I would say, firstly, bringing a fresh perspective. Often we see that internal teams get quite comfortable. They have specific routine or way of executing things. So we try to go in and bring in a breath of new ideas. And we try to demonstrate our value by showing capability, thinking differently, and ultimately trying to drive change as well. And I think it's fair to say that we can actually push internal teams. So not only complementing and addressing that skills shortage which you might have in a business, but also pushing that team that you might already have. And then secondly, I would say integrating with a client in that way can help progress as well. So we're able to operate a little bit outside of company processes. We can leverage our own sort of tried and tested approaches. And we've been there and done it a little bit to a degree. So we know what to watch out for. We've got some experts in the business that we can leverage, and actually we can speed up the way that the businesses are working as well. And then lastly, I think I would say about we have the ability also to look at bigger picture of things as well. So often we go in and work with clients, and maybe there's a particular team focused on solving a particular problem, but it's not taking into consideration the overall bigger picture of what they're trying to achieve in a business. So by us understanding that allows you to kind of connect the dots and work out, okay, how does this work within the overall picture of what you're trying to achieve as a business? And yes, we can focus on that project, but it's in the knowledge of that North Star vision of where the business is trying to go to. So I think in summary, yeah, I think we've definitely seen change in smaller teams, clients having to let some of their teams go, but still a little bit of reluctance to go back to, maybe they've built their internal team and their reluctance to go back to working with a third party. But I think it's rest assured that there's models and ways that we can work to complement and build and work with a team, rather than internal or external just being the only option.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you know, company need to source ideas, right? Whether it is about improving operations or building new line item, source of revenue in a world that is probably moving much more creative and monetization services. So I would think that you need to look at those businesses from different lenses. And as we work with startups, we work with corporates, and we work with investors, we can see that some of those ideas shifting, and sometimes finding ways to implement them in much better light than, as you said, doing internally. And that is where the power of open innovation, I think, resides. So when you look at matching ideas to investment, can you give us some tips as to how we can do that, James?
Tell me a little bit more, explain a little bit more on that question.
Yeah, so if you look at whether you look at startup, corporates, or investors, all of them are looking at money-making initiatives, or as you said, finding ways to take cost out of operation. Still, investors, right, have portfolios, and they need to make sure that these companies are not spending all their monies. So when we look at matching ideas to the money which is out there, investment, whether it's investors' money or corporate money, how do we do that best? What will be your top 3 or 4 tips to do that?
Yeah, okay, good stuff. So I think we often look at kind of the model that we use with startups as well, and scale ups. So we like to try and bring if we're working with startups, I was talking about before, we like to try and bring ideas to life as quickly as possible. So we're right at the start. We're taking that idea. We've got to get something out there. Maybe it's going out and demonstrating something to investors to get them to kind of understand, okay, what the idea is here that we're working with. I think we can adopt model, approaches that we've used with scale ups as well. So scale up, you've probably already got a product in place to some degree, and helping them grow and then iterate and improve. So going back to what I was saying before about, okay, there's maybe have a skills shortage in your business. Okay, we can come in and complement those teams to help iterate and improve and grow. So I think we're in both situations, ultimately, we're trying to adopt a model where we're moving fast. We're not getting stuck in strategy world for ages. We're moving fast. We're identifying what that core product offering needs to be, very, very quickly and early on. So stealing from that startup and scale up kind of mentality, I think.
That's good. And to be able to do that, I guess we need to look at another key components. We already talked about talent, but I would like to go into much more detail around the culture. So looking at the people going to do that work for you, James, what would be the criteria of winning teams? What are going to be the type of incentives you want to see? Those are questions I tend to get often from startup and scale-ups, actually, and advisory boards. So what would be some of the winning criteria you would actually promote to make that journey success?
So I guess if I looked at Spinning Fox specifically, so we try to create a sense of shared business ownership here. So by that, I mean trying to get the team to look at the business as if it was their own. So I'll often throw questions out to the team as, okay, if this was your business, what would you do in this situation? You're coming to me and you're suggesting that we invest X, okay, with a potential return of X. What would you do? Okay, the potential downside is you lose X amount. Put yourself in my shoes, as if you were running the business, and really that doesn't come overnight. That takes time to kind of instill that into a company. But I really try to kind of create that kind of environment where people stop and think, how is this going to make it? It could be anything. It could be, okay, we want to go and invest this money in this training or this new platform. Okay, what's it going to do? What's it going to solve? How's it going to improve the business? What is put yourselves in the shoes of the business finances as well, and look at, okay, what's the potential upside to that and the potential downside? Is it worth? Would you take that risk if you were in that situation? And I think for us is the number one thing as well is making sure that everybody in the business is a great problem solver. And I think that transfers across. It doesn't matter that we're an agency and we're solving problems for clients. That should be key, across a lot of businesses. So for us, it doesn't matter whether you're in business development, whether you're a designer, whether you're an engineer, you have to be a great problem solver. It's the number one thing that we ask questions around when we interview new potential candidates, is try and kind of work out, okay, how good a problem solver is this person? And I think, again, culture-wise, is trying to continue to develop a culture where people aren't afraid to take risks and they're not afraid of failure. I think even probably more so, people are a little bit on edge about that with the current climate. Okay, there's more at stake here with how things are at the moment. We can't afford for things to fail. It's like, okay, but things do fail, and that's where you learn, right? That's, everybody knows that. If everything went perfectly, then you're never learning and never improving. So it's taking on board those calculated risks. If things fail, it's like, okay, what went wrong? How do we learn from it? How do we improve going forwards? And also just getting the team to focus on making things. Let's get on and make things, get things out there into the wild. And then the last thing that we try to do as a business as well is we invest in our team. So we run internal projects. So it might be using a new technology or something, a sort of project that we would love to unlock with a client in a different area, that we could go and pitch to them at a later date. But investing time and making sure that we actually protect that and allocate that time for for the team to work on internal projects, because that's how they're learning. That's how we're then also, from a business perspective, able to go out and sell some exciting new things as well.
That's a really, really wise word. I mean, it was interesting, right? During our conversation, we talk about some of the key patterns happening right now, right? Where a lot of the projects that are coming in is about operational efficiencies, is about taking costs out of the business to drive revenue. You also shared the journey around the spinning fox and how talent is important, not only internally, but also externally within your client base, and finding the right people able to design the right products is key. Yeah. But I think two key points which I noted here is, at the end of the day, we need to be problem solvers. We need to actually think about things in lateral ways. And as business is about lesson learned. So failing in a risk mitigated way, we need also to find a way to take risk in a safe environment. Yeah. And a lot of the things we talk about when we talk to insurance companies, for instance, or corporates in general, is how do we de-risk innovation? How do we de-risk commercialization? How do we de-risk the risk of betting on younger businesses or ideas? And I think, James, you actually highlighted some really interesting tips for us to consider. So I was thinking about you younger. You are looking young, very young, James. So I would like for you to look back at where you are coming from. And so if you were going to talk to a younger James and say, you are going into the digital agency world, what would be your reflection on your path?
Yeah, I guess, okay, looking back, early on, I remember being at school, and I remember having a business studies teacher who always said to me, "You'll go far because you have the gift of the gab." And I'm not sure whether that was a compliment or not. So hopefully that, that's, I'm not sure if that's true, but hopefully it's backed up with some substance as well. But I guess I felt like I've always had quite good business instinct, and I'm not afraid, as I said earlier, I'm not afraid of hard work. I think that's key. By no means am I the finished product. I always try to reflect and look at how I continually learn. It's actually an exercise that I've been doing over the last couple of days. Obviously, new year, looking back on, okay, what went well last year, both from a business perspective and a personal perspective. From what went well, what do we want to carry on and continue to build on? What didn't go well as well, both again on a business and a personal level. So forcing yourself to kind of take that time, I think, is super important. It's very easy just to get stuck into the little rocks, right, rather than moving the big rocks. So taking that time to reflect on how you improve. But as I said, I'm by no means, I'm still young. I've got still a lot to learn. As a leader as well of a business, I try to focus on making sure that I'm getting involved in the right places and that I'm leading by example as well, with my team. And I try to put trust and faith in those around me as well that we've brought into the business. We brought them in because they're great individuals, right? So let's trust them, let's run with them, let them run with things. Yes, you might want to kind of course correct and nudge them in the right direction, but give that, and also letting them fail, as I said before, to a degree, because that's where you can encourage them to reflect on things as well. And then lastly, I just try to motivate people towards a common goal. I think it's very important to continually remind people, what are we working towards as a business? And yes, that things might change a little bit. We try not to make drastic changes all the time as a business, because people just end up confused, but motivating everybody towards that shared common goal. So I try to kind of catch up with everybody in as much as I can and ask them questions like, what do you think we are as a business, or what is our aim as a business, so I can actually check, is that working? Is everybody on the same path? Or it's very easy to assume that everybody's going in the right direction, and but actually, it's good to validate that, I think, quite regularly.
Yeah, that's superb. I'm going to tease you now. So if we were looking at James in his 70s, what would you be doing in your 70s?
Oh gosh. Very good question. I think I'll always be, I think I would find it impossible to not be working. I would love to, do you know what? I do some mentoring. I love mentoring people, and passing on that knowledge. And I like to develop with those that I mentor, I like to develop a relationship with them where they continue, I continually spend time with them on a weekly basis. It's not just a one-off, session. So I'd love to continue to do that. Spending time and probably still involved in businesses to some degree as well, I imagine.
Super.
Not the sort of person that would just be kicking back in a deck chair, I don't think.
I know, I'm the same. I think I would sit on advisory boards, and I would still get my brain busy, and definitely writing. So that is something I think I do pretty well. Writing, analyzing the world and finding a way to share it with my community.
Yeah, well, you love tech as well, right? I think last time we saw each other in person, you were saying that you wanted to play around with some NFTs, go out and buy some more, and just go through that journey and experience and things.
It's not doing very well right now, but at the end of the day, it's the only way you learn about where this world is going, right? Web3, we talk about Web3 metaverse and all those things. If you don't play with it, you don't really know.
Get out there and get immersed in it and experience it firsthand. Don't just read about it, I think. Yeah,
exactly. And that's part of the job, which is great, because working with startups means that you play with a lot of things. You get access to a lot of platforms to try and see whether they have an opportunity for success. So any last word of wisdom you want to share with our community?
Oh, gosh. Puts me on the spot. I would say probably not being the person that you think that people want you to be, because often that won't be right. I think just literally just being yourself. I've probably been guilty of it in the past. It's very easy to do, right? You think you try to be the person that you think that you should be, but actually where you're most genuine, I think that's where people will believe in you more, and especially as a leader, people will they'll see through it if you're not being genuine. So I think for me, big wise words would be, just be yourself, and don't pretend to be somebody else.
Perfect. Be yourself. Ingenuity, and authenticity. I think those are key traits that people are looking for today. So if we want to find you, James, where do we go?
Spinningfox.com to find Spinning Fox. You can find me on LinkedIn, I think /James R. Marshall. So reach out to me on there. I'd love to connect with anybody that's listening. That would be great.
Superb. Well, thank you very much for your time today, James. Thank you for talking to us about product innovation and product-led design. I think that is going to be something which resonates this year as more startups come to market and trying to do it well, and big businesses trying to take cost out of their operation. So thank you.
Great. No, thank you. I really appreciate you inviting me to talk to you.
Well, I hope everybody will rate it and will actually subscribe to our podcast and comment on this episode. And if there is any more discussion they want to have with you, James, I'm sure they will rush out.
Great.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
If you like this podcast, subscribe now, share with your friends, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a 5-star review. Also, if you want to cover any specific subject with me, contact me on Instagram under Sabine VdL Officials or LinkedIn under Sabine VdL. Thank you.